3 words.
They wanna wonga.
Oh, my.
What is it? It's my George Foreman griddle that cooks pancakes. No, it's my George Foreman bacon oven, and it's making pizza. No.
What? Huh? Podcast? Oh no. I didn't expect you guys to be here, and I'm not dressed. It's like a bad romance where the mailman comes in and I was like, oh. It's you, the audience. Oh no. It's episode 59 of all things. The podcast that will never die. The podcast that spends all its time calling out the media into the void and having fun discussions. We are here for another episode, and with me, I have Jason. How's it going, Jason?
Pretty good. Got back to playing Super Mario Wonder recently.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a good one. The thing is, I was just thinking about this. So I have very rarely, I've played a ton of Mario games, and very rarely have I finished them. I played the Mario game on NES, never finished it. I played Mario 2, never finished it. Played Mario 3. I played the crap out of Mario 3, never finished it. Let's see. The one I never had an SNES, so I only ever played what was it, Super Mario World over at my friend's house. So I never finished that one. I did finish the one that you gave me for Christmas, and I finished
Deluxe or whatever.
Yeah, Super Mario U or whatever it is, Deluxe. Yeah, I finished that one, and I finished the Luigi one too. That's basically the flip side kind of thing.
Okay.
I finished Super Mario Odyssey. Although I really I finished the main part. You can technically go back through and like pick up all the different things that you know, the collectibles and stuff that you skip along the way, just to make sure that you're getting to the next level and stuff.
I loved Odyssey. That game's so much fun.
Odyssey was good. Yeah, that one.
Is
one of the best ones. But yeah, with the number of Mario games out there, it surprises me how many of them that I've started and just, you know, something new came along and distracted me from finishing the previous one, or I got stuck on something. I mean, Super Mario 3, that was a tough one. I remember. And then, especially the Bowser's level on Super Mario 3, the flying stuff right there at the end, where you're having to dodge everything just to make it to the end.
Sure.
And then you have to, I forget, is that the one where you have to basically have Bowser break the bricks, or is that a different one? I forget.
Yeah, that's 3.
Yeah, it took. I was playing with my friend and we were kind of switching back and forth. He ended up beating it while I was there, and like I said, we were switching back and forth because, you know, obviously one of you is playing Mario and the other one's playing Luigi. but he had played a lot more before I got there, kind of thing. So anyway, either that or we used the warp whistles. I forget. But yeah, back to work this week and all that stuff. So look forward to getting home and playing Mario Wonder, because it's the whole unwind time.
Sure. Silver, how's it going, champ?
Oh, so great. I've been so productive doing stuff I want to do in life.
Just enjoying your time.
Oh, yeah. Never experienced such joy.
It's like free
Being
time
alive.
is magical. I know.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, buck up.
But now, in the brief 2 seconds that I had, I ended up reliving childhood wonder.
Okay.
I used to be a big fan of the Tinkerbell movies,
oh my
and
gosh.
I hadn't seen them in like a decade.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I relived that, and I'm like, oh, the good old days.
Now you've gone down the
When everything
Tinkerbell
was
rabbit
fine.
hole. You see the ones where she can, well, let's see. Because I'm confusing a bit of the Tinkerbell stuff with the Barbie stuff. Because Tinkerbell had a lot of adventures too. Because I was like, wasn't there a Barbie movie where she had wings?
Where she was a fairy? Yes.
Yeah.
Fairytopia, excuse you.
you girl.
Oh yeah, I was a fan of that too.
Yeah, I bet your favorite color is pink or something.
No!
You're a cliche up and down. If it wasn't for the destruction of Tokyo, you'd be the most generic girl I've ever seen.
Oh.
It's a good thing you're a horror monster from the Great Void, from which we shall not speak.
Oh, yeah. At least I got that going for me.
At least you got that going for me. Speaking. She has come. Well, special.
It is me.
It is me. So much to talk about. This podcast, my goodness, the amount of news and stuff to go through. Where do we start? Well, we could start. Hopefully this doesn't start without. It does not. So it's Hell Week. It is perhaps D-Day in media.
The purge of media.
The purge of media. We have been flooded with some of the largest and most consequential pieces of media to hit us in a while. Snow White, which has been talked about, maligned, discussed, rediscussed. I mean, it became a symbol. Rachel Zegler became a symbol of what everything that is bad in Hollywood. She became the center of everybody's ire and everything that everybody dislikes when it comes to Hollywood. Let alone the disrespect to the source material, and this being the culmination of sort of the peak, I guess, Hollywood, and the peak everybody disliking the direction that Hollywood is going. This movie was going to be controversial from the get-go, and it didn't have to be.
No, it didn't. This could have been a slam dunk for Disney.
It could have been. But they were going to take it in certain directions, and the problem with a lot of these movies is it take forever. This is a pre-COVID developed movie, if I recall. We got a lot of comments from Zegler during the protests. It might be post-COVID pre-protests. Regardless, the doom of Snow White has been lingering over the cloud has been lingering over our heads for a long time. It emerged out the gate being one of the most downvoted videos in YouTube history for the trailer being released.
Yeah. Oh my god.
We got inundated with comments from Rachel Zegler making everybody feel that, oh, maybe she hates Snow White. Maybe she isn't that great a person that we all thought she was, as I slightly delayed to bring up these. Let's see.
Yeah, it kind of showed, especially her comments. I know that
no, it's poorly formatted.
The comments that she was making about Snow White and things, it kind of showed how out of touch that she and Disney were with their target audience. Just her comments alone.
I don't know if that's true, Jason.
Okay.
I don't know if she's necessarily out of touch. I think she's definitely exactly in touch with the exact audience that Disney was trying to get.
Right.
She's exactly in touch with the modern politics.
Right. But that's not Disney's core audience.
That's not the point. That's Disney's core audience isn't necessarily who they're trying to get. They're trying to get a newer, hipper, younger audience.
Oh, I get it. I'm not saying that you're wrong on that score.
I think too long, especially when it comes to these big companies, we try and dismiss the mistakes they make as ignorance. I think these are deliberate. I think these are intentional.
No, I'm not saying that this was unintentional. I'm saying that they did this deliberately, and it shows that they are definitely out of touch with the people who pay their bills.
Well, let's remind everybody of who Rachel Zegler was.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for...
So now it's a completely different story from what we intended. And clearly she has an animus to the original plot. She doesn't think, she thinks it's dated. She thinks it's out of touch. And the new story is her being a strong, independent woman who can do everything on her own.
So special about Snow White, the fact that it's about the humanity and it's about nature as well, and it's a beautiful story about an amazing girl who wants to find the true self of hers, that is just so appealing and so special.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince, or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Silver, as a fan of Disney, or at least has someone who's probably seen this movie, what was the original story about?
I couldn't tell you moral of the story exactly, but girl who's nice and fairest in all the land, queen hates her and is jealous. She goes out to the woods to escape certain death, where she falls in love with the prince. Yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, she's dreaming of true love. The weird the theme is the jealousy of her youth and the young girl just wanting to find love, which is a simple human story, but something that
one of the best songs,
apparently they didn't want to retell. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. One of the best songs from that movie is "Someday My Prince Will Come,"
which apparently isn't in the new one.
No, and apparently, no, he's not. He's not actually a prince. He's a bandit. And the only reason that they even have him,
well, we don't
is
even
because
we don't even need to. We're getting way ahead of
them.
ourselves. Way ahead of ourselves, Jason. There are steps. There are steps I've prepared. So this is the movie we're walking into with a Rachel Zegler who seems to dislike the original, and the intention of the filmmakers is to change it from what it was into the direction we're intending to go. Which brings us to the werewolf. Which brings us to the news, which is poorly formatted. Apparently, Rachel Zegler says that Disney Snow White will help fight prejudice and race and division in a magazine interview that once more ties Disney's film into her personal politics, which was always the problem at the get-go. This has become a symbol of the politics that exists in Hollywood, where it exemplifies the sort of things that Hollywood wants to tell us, where it wants to push those politics down on everybody else. And we all knew what we were getting into with this movie. We went through an era in Hollywood where politics was the rig du jour, where they wanted to preach to us about the new standard of the day. And it was inserted in everything. I mean, people talk rightly or wrongly about the woke era in Hollywood. But the intention was to insert politics into things. And I hear you, naysayer, say, no, that's not true. You're just being overly sensitive. You're being anti-woke. Well, sir, if you weren't paying attention, sir or madam, this was everywhere. And examples have been abound. And we have examples here with the directions these things have been going. The comment she had in that magazine interview remind me of the Eternals with Marvel, where they claimed that it was going to save lives by inserting politics into things. So here's the question. What is an honest review? Can we get an honest review with so much politics and so much side picking when it comes to this sort of thing? Well, an article for you from the very left wing, BBC, having some interesting things to say about this. As we slide down.
I like that subtitle there about how it looks like the movie's having an identity crisis. It seems to imply that they think that it should have gone one way and it didn't go far enough, or it flip-flopped in their opinion back and forth between the two sides. And that could be indicative of the fact that when they wrapped it up, there was a ton of reshoots that they did.
Which seems to happen in almost every Disney film. That everything seems to be inundated with reshoots. Yeah. So I have an article, a paragraph of this review to read. For the first few scenes, what we get is a subversive version. In an overlong opening sequence, we hear that Snow White, Zegler, isn't named after her skin color, as is a traditional story would have it, but after the blizzard that was blowing when she was born. It's not entirely clear why the king and queen chose to name their daughter in honor of the weather, but considering she could have been called Drizzle or Gusty, and songs about the days when Snow White's benign parents ruled a kingdom for the free and fair, where the bounty of the land belonged to all who tended it, this has to be the closest a Disney princess film has gotten to paraphrasing the Communist Manifesto. Communist
Wow.
Manifesto, you say? That's really confusing. What on earth could be talking about? This movie seems to fall in between two things. It's either trying to be a classic tale about a medieval feudalistic kingdom, or it's going to insert strange modern politics into the storytelling. Whatever your politics happen to be, this turns people off. Now, you might be asking me, Rhett, what in the hell are you talking about? Communist politics? Well, believe it or not, there's messaging in the story where she talks about how apples aren't just for one person, that they should be shared with everybody, and that her solution to hunger is to make apple pies.
Because that's how it works.
And that we are basically cursed with an undercurrent of communist messaging in our new Still White movie. Yes, that's right. Communist messaging. Let's listen along.
Please. You were saying?
It's just, Your Majesty, people are struggling, and it may not be much, but when I was young, my parents and I we'd pick apples. We'd take them and make pies, then go out into the village.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
But sometimes something small, something sweet even, can make you believe that there's more to being alive than mere subsistence.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
That's so
Eyes.
weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah, well, this is the movie we have. So what do the reviews really say? It seems to be a movie that is neither fish nor fowl. It's neither a story about a love story, nor is it a communist manifesto. It's neither her being a strong, independent woman or her relying on the prince. It seems to try and be doing two things, and let's remind ourselves, as Jason commented, that there was reshoots done, which might explain why the movie seems to be half in, half out, and not one thing in particular. Rachel Zegler, I heard she can sing. I heard the songs are mediocre, but she can sing just fine. It seems like the Queen is overacted and exaggerated. Go ahead, Jason.
Some of the things that I've heard in the reviews, they all seem to come down on the side of, well, Rachel Zegler has got a set of pipes and she can sing. They also said some of the visuals. Only one person that I heard praised the dwarves. Everybody else were like Uncanny Valley. A couple people were saying like the woodland critters, that they were particularly well done, but everything else was just either boring, awful, or there. Like I said, there seemed to be kind of consensus in two things. One, a couple of the visuals were really well done, and she can sing. That's about it. Everybody else that I came across their reviews were like, this is terrible. These two things were okay. Everything else was either boring or awful.
Well, then the question becomes, is the movie very good? How does one choose objectively whether or not the movie is very good? Because any review site is not objective. Here we have Rotten Tomatoes. No. The critic score is a 43, the audience score a 74. How are we supposed to tell whether or not this is an accurate representation of whether or not the movie is good? I don't know.
With 74%, that to me says that this is a meh movie. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just meh.
But that doesn't tell us anything, Jason. We've been over the problem with Rotten Tomatoes. They've changed their algorithm where even the audience score requires you to verify your view. So if you're going in verifying your view in order to give a specific review, then you care enough about the movie and you probably like it. Because nobody who hates a movie is going to crawl over broken glass to try and make sure that they downvote it, unless it's really, really bad. So most people showing up to give it positive reviews. See, that's the problem with how Rotten Tomatoes... Here's the thing, everybody. Rotten Tomatoes is a shitty website. It does not have a very good algorithm on how to tell whether or not a movie's good. Now, you might ask yourself, well, 43% is an aggregate of critic review scores. That is not accurate. It is not an aggregate of critic review scores. It counts as a fresh or a Rotten Tomato, whether or not the critic gives it a 60% or more. And so if I give it a 61%, it counts as a fresh. And that 43% is how many fresh versus rotten. And there's a vast difference between me giving something a 90% or me giving something a 60%. There's a huge difference between the two. And those both count as fresh, and those both fresh count in the aggregate of how many give fresh and how many give negative. That 43% are how many rotten there are more than the fresh. It is a bad system for reviewing. You're basically reviewing movies based upon tomato freshness. This is the worst way to assess things. Let alone the audience score was basically whoever used to go on there could just give it an up or a down vote and then affect the score. That is good and bad because you can get brigading, positive and negative, of people showing up and hating on a movie. Now, to be fair, brigading can tell you general interest when it comes to movies. So that could tell you there's a lot of hatred towards this movie, even if it's not an accurate score when it comes to whether or not it's a good or a bad movie. Now we have a scoring system where they actually have to deliberately prove through a veritable system whether or not they have purchased a ticket. So they can't just go in there and review. And people who do that are going to be more than likely positive when it comes to reviewing the score. Rotten Tomatoes is the worst site when it comes to whether or not this is a good show or a bad show. It's a bad website. It doesn't give you any indication of whether or not it's an accurate scoring system or any indication as to whether or not this is a good or bad movie.
Now, the people that I have seen their reviews of, it was on YouTube, and basically the title of their reviews were like, "I went and saw Snow White, so you don't have to." So at least by looking at those reviews, I mean, the only way we can really tell objectively, I shouldn't even say objectively, but the only way we can tell for ourselves, and it's still going to be a subjective review, whether or not the movie was good or bad, is we would have to go see it ourselves.
Right.
Now,
but we haven't seen it, and we don't know for sure. Right. So I'm trying to tell generally what is the sentiment of this film, which brings us to Metacritic. Metacritic gives us... Now, Metacritic is, by and large, the closest we can get to objectivity when it comes to reviews. It basically aggregates everything, and the critic scores are a 50, and user scores are of a 1.3.
Oh, wow. That is, that's a heck of a lot lower than
And I can point out a subjective individual review on YouTube that loves this movie or hates this movie. I'm just trying to tell, in general, what seems to be the sentiment. It seems to have politics in it, which I'm not in favor of, which seems to divide audiences. And when you divide audiences, you tend to have lower people having interest. But when you divide audiences, it both caters to a particular political perspective and scares away people from a particular political perspective. So now you're going to have a culture war involved when it comes to a movie like this, of people trying to champion it because they feel like they have to, because they hate the type of people that dislike this movie, or the type of people and the things that they've said, or they feel like it's some sort of social call to champion the film. And then you have people simply not watching it on principle because they've dishonored the source material, or they don't like the type of people that like it. Metacritic seems to generally say that the movie sucks balls.
Yeah.
And without going down...
That would be my assessment.
Now, without going down individual subjective reviews, this seems to be the best that we could find. Now, is there an even more objective way to tell whether or not this movie's any good? How about we go to box office? Snow White's opening is $45 million, on par with Dumbo, with a Saturday AM box office update. Dumbo, which lost money, by the way.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about Dumbo. My gosh.
Everybody forgot about Dumbo.
Action, that is. Originals.
How about the previews that we've gotten? Snow White makes $3.5 million in the previews, which is abysmal. I think it's one
ads
of the
have been saying
the best movie in
top
the
movie
country.
in America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
So it doesn't seem to be doing well. And it probably cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And this was kind of what everybody expected it to be. It was going to be a culture war project. Everybody was going to pick a side. Everybody was going to be annoyed. They were either going to like it or dislike it based upon their politics. Because guess what? You inserted politics into this. As I alluded to at the beginning, Rachel Zegler became the poster child of everything everybody hates in Hollywood. Outspoken politically, hates the original source material, belligerent to everybody who doesn't like her stuff. Famously on during the protest, she said that I deserve a penny. I deserve money for every minute I have to be in that dress for whenever that whenever it's shown on television or whatever. And it's like, so your entitlement is going to attract audiences. This was going to be a divisive movie out the get-go. People are going to hate the direction that they sent it with. It's no longer a story about true love, a cute, original story. It's now a story about empowerment and about communism. And I am so tired of this type of Hollywood. I'm not there for it. I'm not going to give you money for it. I'm sick and tired of the direction that Hollywood has been going, and I'm not, like, you don't get my money. And people are more than welcome to love this movie, but I'm not gonna. And I might not sway the box office, but guess what? A lot of people agree with me, as it seems to tell with the reviews as well as the poor performance out the gate. With this movie, we have been expecting this dumpster fire to hit us for a long time. Everybody has been expecting. It's one of the most downvoted movies on YouTube. We all knew this was coming. We all knew that this was going to be a dumpster fire. We all knew what we were going into. How come they can't just make a movie that doesn't have to offend a lot of people? Can't they just make a good human story instead of have to preach to us about your politics, which seems to be the only goal that Hollywood has as of late? The intention that they need you to hear their politics and they feel obligated to preach to you and cram it down your throat. And I'm sick of this. We've had too much of this type of movie. We've had too much of this type of content. Guess what? This isn't the only thing that we have to talk about that is full of this woke garbage yet again. Because guess what also came out this week? That's right, Assassin's Creed Shadows came out this week. Guess what? We also got a new episode of Daredevil that was bullshit. I am so tired of this crap. You don't get my money, Disney. Nothing you made is of any relevance. It is perhaps one of the dumbest. Hollywood is producing some of the dumbest content I've ever seen in my life. May God have mercy on your soul, because we will not help you. Comments on Snow White before we move on?
I totally agree. The thing is that it seems to me that the writers and the Hollywood especially, they seem to think that they know better, and so it's almost like they're trying to preach down to us, like, you know what I mean? It's, here we have to put this in everything because you guys just aren't getting it yet. And it's, the more they double down on it, the more we reject it. The more the message is rejected, the more people are just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'll go find my entertainment somewhere else that isn't going to condescend, and that's actually going to entertain. Look, I get the fact that you have a message and that you want to get it out there. I get that. But the what you're doing, the way you're trying to present that message is so obviously wrong. I'm trying to remember. I know that I don't agree with practically any movie star in Hollywood, but the ones that are, you know what, I'm gonna make my movie, and the movie, I'm going to, be an actor. I'm going to entertain. That's what I do in the movie. And then, my politics, I'm going to do that on my own time. And if you want to come along with me, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm just going to make a good movie. I can get behind those guys, because at least they understand that they're just entertainers.
Love it. I mean, and I'm not even that passionate about Snow White. I'm sick of Hollywood. I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
Silver, do you care that much about Snow White, or you're like, this is what I expected?
With this live action, yeah, this is what I expected. It just to be horrible, cramming a bunch of political stuff. And it being such a disappointment compared to the original. I do not think Disney... Because you agreed, Snow White, older one, and this one at least should have been... The target audience should have been little girls, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where you get tons of money, like with Frozen. They got so much money with Frozen. But... yeah, it's like, okay, we're not gonna go for the little girl angle anymore. The ones that want to see the stuff, they just,
Little girls need to know about communism, too.
Apparently. But clearly they don't understand that little girls aren't being like, oh yeah, women empowerment and communism, whatever. Sorry to break it to you, Disney, but... Little girls dream of being princesses and finding true love with their prince. That's just what we do!
How dare you!
It's just a fact!
How dare you! You're letting down all the feminists everywhere. I can hear them shrieking.
I know, they're breaking down my door right now.
They've been trying to indoctrinate you for years, and it hasn't gotten through yet.
Yeah, they've been trying. I've been getting so many letters in the mail.
Apparently, it hasn't worked for practically anybody, judging by the box office numbers.
Yeah, it just, nobody's going to go see it. Which, in the end, is the only number that really matters. I mean, you can love the movie. You're more than welcome to. But is it a success? Doesn't seem to be. Does it honor the source material? Doesn't seem to be. Is it a good movie? Most people don't seem to think it is. So you might love it. Great. But nobody makes a movie for two people to like.
Yeah, exactly.
No company
For that
spends
one
hundreds of
little girl
yeah.
who understands communism.
No company makes hundreds of millions of dollars to have a mediocre film. Some final Snow White news to come through. Apparently, a bunch of actors with dwarfism are protested outside Disney over the unacceptable remake. You might ask yourself, why is that the case? Well, famously, Peter Dinklage came out angry about Snow White and that it's demeaning to dwarves, which, okay, that's fine. But then a lot of dwarves came out and said, well, you don't speak for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would have loved to have been in Snow White. So
you do know these are fantasy dwarves, right?
Yeah, they're fantasy dwarves. They're not real people. They're not actually human beings with a physical condition.
They're like a mythological creature. I do know that, right?
But it's also not that big a deal to put a human in an outfit. Like, I don't know why that's such a problem.
I know, but it's like the comment of it being offensive. It's like, so do you find dwarves in Lord of the Rings offensive?
Well, I didn't hear anybody complaining when John Rhys Davies, who was taller than anybody else on the set, was playing a dwarf. But one of the things that that came out after the whole Peter Dinklage thing,
sorry,
there was another dwarf actor who basically said, "Look, you're not speaking for all of us, and these are some of the only roles we can actually get in Hollywood." Now, that in itself does show that there is a, I don't know if bias is the right word, against dwarf actors, but when there is just a small section of roles that, because of obviously somebody who is a dwarf actor, it's going to be very hard for them to get a role that, like an action hero role, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is getting. And maybe that's something that we need to change in Hollywood. I don't know. Don't ask me. But what was that?
Why would we need to change? Look, every role
I'm not saying
cast, every role that's cast is cast for a specific reason. If you're casting an action hero, the person needs to be an action, or at least the way the writers and the directors envision the action hero. If you're casting somebody who's like a damsel in distress, she needs to depict that. I mean, you cast for the role. Unfortunately, people with dwarfism tend not to fit into those roles. Now, could we have a movie with dwarf characters taking place where they either are action or a love interest? Absolutely. And there are interesting dynamics that you can take into with these characters who have their physical ailments. But there's a reason why we cast people to look certain ways, because they're taking a specific role.
As we're discussing this, I thought to myself, I would love to see them do like an action comedy with a dwarf actor as the lead in the role, and hopefully they could do it well. I don't think that the current Hollywood
they're more than welcome to. This is completely beside the point I was trying to make. I was trying to say that they cast for the role, and unfortunately, dwarfism doesn't tend to be a feature that they're mostly looking for when they're trying to cast for a specific role. Guess what? Ugly people are also not a that they tend to cast for specific roles, because ugly people no one wants to look at, and that's why. I mean, that's why a lot of us aren't actors, because we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why dwarfism isn't now you can make a interesting human story featuring a character with dwarfism. I think the unfortunate aspect is their physical issue will end up being the center of the story, because you can't ignore the fact that they have dwarfism.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want tiptoes.
And that's one of the things that That's one of the things that Dwarf actor was pointing out after the Peter Dinklage thing. He's like, there are very few roles in Hollywood for people of our stature. So please don't take those roles away from us by saying that they're demeaning to us, because then there will be even fewer roles, because then they'll look around and they'll say, you know what? If we make this a dwarf role, then that's demeaning to dwarves. So we have to give this role to somebody who's not a dwarf, which means that then you're taking away roles from people who would actually be good for the part.
Well, and
unfortunately, that's what people are doing now.
I think the message, I think the point was, you don't speak for us. You are not head dwarf, Peter Dinklage. and if they want to, even if you think it's demeaning, they are more than right. They're more than in their rights to want to play that role, because they don't think it's demeaning. You don't speak for everybody.
Yeah.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole too much. I found it interesting that a bunch of individuals, dwarfism, were protesting outside Disney, as if Disney hasn't offended enough people already.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, everybody. Guess what else has come out this week? The Doom, the game we've been discussing for months and months, because there's always just another controversy over the hill looming in the background. That's right, Assassin's Creed has finally come out, and I have some beautiful dialogue to play for everybody from the new Assassin's Creed game.
Can grow quietly without much warning after a storm. Mushrooms can too. Shiitake?
Mushrooms. The smell of dirt, grass, and rain.
Resentment can grow quietly without much warning after a storm. Mushrooms can too.
I don't know what accent she's trying to do in this game. I really don't.
Is she trying to do a Japanese accent? It's just not working.
It's a white girl trying to do a Japanese accent who never had a single day of when you're going to speak, basically Japanese Japanese accent coaching. She went into the studio, tried to record her lines, and they're like, good.
Let me get to Chance's comment really quick. Chance says, as long as Jesse Plemons keeps getting roles, there is hope for anyone to make it big. I call him Down syndrome Batman. Matt Damon, I'm sorry, which pisses my wife off. Does she fancy him, Chance? Does she fancy Jesse? And he says that just sounding incredibly drunk. Here's the problem with that voice acting. Are they trying to do a Japanese accent, which is kind of weird and racist? Because that's not even a Japanese accent. That's really bad. Like, it's not Japanese. It's like I don't know what accent they're trying to do, which should give you an indication is the quality, the beauty we are getting out of the new Assassin's Creed game. We are all excited. Guess what? The doom is upon us. Assassin's Creed is here. So is it good? Let's read a review from PC Gamer, of all things. Assassin's Creed Shadows has convinced me that Ubisoft will never make a good RPG. Let's read on.
This one.
Assassin's Creed made the jump from sneaky action sandboxes to full-fledged RPGs a long time ago, and at first, the novelty of all the loot, skill trees, dialogue, and choices and quests were enough to make it seem like Ubisoft had been successful in its pivot. But more of these RPGs it makes, the more gaps become obvious. Assassin's Creed Shadows is chock full of RPG systems, possibly more than any other Assassin's Creed, but their lack of depth reveals a fundamental problem at this point. Doubt the series will ever overcome Assassin's Creed as an action series, cosplaying as an RPG. They started to go down the RPG route with Origins, as I recall.
Which did really well.
Yeah, it did well. He goes on to... do you want to surmise really quickly the points this article makes, Jason?
Well, basically, from what I recall of the article, I was looking into a little bit about Assassin's Creed, and we talked a little bit about this before the show. That I was all set to hear that there were a bunch of negative reviews, and then I started hearing things like it's got mostly positive on Steam. So I was looking at some articles, and this was one. Basically, it was saying that, as I recall, that when they started adding these RPG elements, they kind of lost the plot. That they were overcomplicating things from their prior games and losing themselves in the fog. But that's what I recall from the article.
So as far as game mechanics, from what I've heard, from watching people play it as well as reading some reviews, the Yasuke character is mostly an action character and not a very Assassin's Creed character.
Yeah, I mean, we saw
he doesn't do stealth stuff. He doesn't. He doesn't use Assassin's Creed weapons. He doesn't have the hidden blade or anything. You know how in the Assassin's Creed games you have those towers that you unlock part of the map by doing the leap of faith off of and stuff. Well, right. Yasuke can't do that, so you have to switch characters to the female character in order to do that. Also, he uses like crossbows or ranged weapons, and she doesn't. Like, there's a clear delineation between the two characters, but he doesn't feel very Assassin's Creed. Which,
no, from what I saw when he was in the pre-release footage and stuff, they were showing him like just smashing through things.
Right.
Which is definitely not sneaky.
Right, which is what I said. However, if we go and find how the game has been performing, we have an article from Radio Times, Assassin's Creed Shadow sales numbers and Steam charts. How many people are actually playing the game? So is the game actually doing well? Despite all of the controversies, despite all of the drama, is Assassin's Creed actually doing any well? And here we have, apparently, according to Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft themselves, Assassin's Creed has passed 1 million players. I don't know how you define that, if it's on Steam or in general, or a million sales. But we got 1 million players out the gate. How about, because I've got stupid stuff, day 2, we have an IGN article claiming that Assassin's Creed has now passed 2 million players on its second day. It's doing amazing. And it's now surpassed Origin and Odyssey launches. Well, that's great. Oh my gosh. So maybe Assassin's Creed, despite all the controversy and the negativity from Japan as well as people in general, seems to be surpassed. How about the Steam numbers, which everybody has been making a big deal about? Assassin's Creed doing well. And I will point you to this number. There are only 42,000 people in-game playing it. For a game that has sold
2 million, huh?
2 million, we have 42,000 people playing, which is a peak of 60. Does that sound like a game that sold 2 million copies?
It looks like it's doing great.
But this is just Steam. Maybe most of the sales are console?
Yeah. Everyone on Xbox just really getting hold of it.
I will revert you to an article from That Park Place in 2024 in November. Apparently, Ubisoft pressured Steam to get rid of concurrent player counts after Star Wars Outlaws' disastrous debut. Ubisoft was trying to get Steam to not advertise their concurrent player counts because it was damaging their sales, according to Ubisoft. Well, their intention is to hide it.
I hope Steam told them where to stick it.
I think they did.
Good.
But you might ask yourself, oh, there's not that much controversy surrounding the game. Well, the Japanese Prime Minister is condemning the game. I think he said something specifically like, we will not tolerate any acts that do not respect our culture. And I quote, interesting. An actual comment from the Prime Minister of Japan. So
you did a bad game when the leader of a country has to comment about it. Most of the time, video games they basically fly under the radar. It's only when there's something egregious about the game that, governments start getting involved.
So how about this article from Forbes? The new Assassin's Creed releases to strong reviews, but sparks anti-woke backlash and roils the Japanese government. That's right. Any negativity is anti-woke, despite the Japanese government also being very angry about this game.
That's hilarious.
And as we move forward even slightly, so then I guess the general question is, first of all, this game had a huge amount of controversy. We have a Black Samurai, which, as we found, as anyone who's done research, it's very ambiguous as to unlikely that this character really ever did any of the things that anybody claimed that they did. That the book written by a white man is mostly nonsense that he fabricated out of whole cloth. If you go down the rabbit hole, the only thing we know is he was a slave, he was bought by Nobunaga and probably went back into slavery. He treated him kind of as a trophy, like, look at this weird thing I have, this black man. He wasn't one of the greatest samurai of all time. He did not fight alongside Nobunaga as far as we can tell. He really didn't do anything. He was kind of treated as an oddity. And then he went back. But then it opened up the rabbit hole of all of the disrespect that we've had. The damaging of the shrine, which I felt was somewhat exaggerated, but the Japanese are more than welcome to have their perspective on that. The toy that they came out with featuring a half shrine, famously one of the few half shrines that ever existed, was the one that survived the bombings in Hiroshima. Oh, that's really disrespectful. How about the flags they included in the game and in the book and in the art that was stolen from a reenactment group that do reenactments for the Battle of Sekigahara? How about the cultural sensitivity person that they hired that they found out was in China? How about one of their main people that did assessments or cultural stuff for the game? Wasn't even really Japanese, was from America, and was very politically involved. And then more, and then more, and then more, and the controversies stack upon themselves. This is like 10% of the drama that exists around this game. 10% of the drama. Is it doing well? I would argue that as in any game, Dragon Age or Concord, as in any movie, they're going to come out the gate claiming it's a success even when it's not. And they're going to do subterfuge and they're going to throw up smoke. I would venture to guess that Assassin's Creed Shadows probably cost an absurd amount of money.
Oh, yeah.
And that it probably has to do a lot better than 2 million. Even if it did sell 2 million, which everybody is kind of rolling their eyes as to whether or not that's true. Considering the Steam numbers that we have, which are direct numbers coming from Steam, which are accurate. Am I invested in this game's failure? Not necessarily. I want bad games to do poorly, and I want game companies who put this garbage into this stuff to do poorly to learn their lesson. But in the end, if somebody likes the game, does it really bother me? Am I foaming at the mouth in my room, throwing stuff at the wall that somebody enjoys Assassin's Creed? No, I don't care. Have fun with your very historically inaccurate game. You're more than welcome to. Despite the controversy and disrespect, according to the Japanese, towards our culture. Is the game selling well? Now, this opens up the question of, now that we have the game, what do we have? Is there more than what we saw previously? And I bring you to the romance options in Assassin's Creed. Now, if you recall, a couple weeks ago, they added a mode that was specifically canon mode that allowed you to play through the canon story within the game, so that the game story played out exactly the way canonically in the plot they want it to play out. Before I go down that road, Chance says, Lord, I've been officially over Assassin's Creed for years is the Madden of action games. They just kind of crap out a new disrespectful game every week. So, canon mode. Each character has both male and female romance options. So they're definitely open to the LGBTQ options in this game. So if you're gay, you've got options, and if you're a lesbian, you have options. And the canon option is the female assassin is a lesbian when it goes through the canon storyline. Now, why, look, gay, whatever. Now, here's where we have the awkwardness of the, what, do you have a problem with gay storylines? It's like, well, yes, but because of my sensibilities, but that's not the point. The point is, would this be historically accurate? Maybe. Like, homosexuality did exist in Japan. Was it very open? No. And depending on which era, they would have hunted you down.
Now, obviously, they're going to say, this is just a video game. Why are you talking about, historical accuracy? Because they always do things like that.
Well, they also claim their game was historically accurate with...
Yeah, that's true.
What's the name?
Which means that it comes back and bites them in the butt.
Hey, make a mega gay Assassin's Creed game. It doesn't attract me. It doesn't attract me. No, the controversy surrounds two characters. Hori is the male interest. Here we have Ibuki, a romance option for Yasuke. Ibuki is bisexual. Is a man who likes to dress up in feminine ways and be a lady.
Ah, I see.
This is not the most controversial romance option.
Really?
Oh!
The most controversial romance option is Lady Oichi. Here's the problem. Lady Oichi is an historical figure. And probably one of the most notorious historical figures of Japanese history. Now, you might ask yourself, Rhett, who is Lady Oichi and why do people care? Well, I'll tell you. She is considered the mother of Japan. She is representative of all the virtues that they sort of hold up as feminine virtues in Japanese history. She is an extremely important character when it comes to Japan. Yeah. And her character was famously known for her devotion and her honorable conduct. She apparently chose to die by her husband in combat. She married twice for political reasons, and even with that, she was not only extremely devoted, but extremely faithful to both husbands. The first husband passed away in the war, and the second husband, she chose to die alongside him. She is seen in Japan as one of the most honorable and loyal female characters in their entire history. Nobunaga even said that if she was born a man, she would have been one of the greatest fighters. She's also connected to several different Japanese emperors, her daughters all marrying royal families, turning her into potential love interests to someone who's not either one of her husbands, is extremely disgraceful and offensive to Japanese history and culture. I cannot tell you. This is probably a bigger deal than the shrine thing. This is like she is like a George Washington sort of. She is both historical and mythical to how the Japanese see themselves. And turning her into a love interest so that she can hook up with the new ahistorical Black Samurai character is grossly offensive. She is an extremely important character to Japanese history, and I don't know if this is going to go over super well. Already, there's been a lot of negative reception to how people have treated this character. Lady Oichi is not somebody I guess people are okay with them having a romance option. Have I lost everybody?
No.
I'm just taking it all in. My gosh. So
I
is
know.
she a romanceable option for the female character as well? Which
No,
would probably
I
be
don't
even more
believe so.
disrespectful to her character.
No.
Okay. Just what's his name?
Yasuke.
Yeah,
Yasuke.
wow. I mean, this is I've been drawing several parallels in my mind to this would be like if the Japanese made a game in which some character destroyed the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Monument, or they were romancing the First Lady,
and they made her out to be kind of a hooer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but this is like
terrible.
doing that to Martha Washington or something.
Yeah, we would be up in arms about this. It would
I'd
be
be
like
pretty
the Japanese are disrespecting us. So I totally get where they're coming from. This is a slap in the face. The people who okayed these things and said, "Oh yeah, this is just fine. You're not disrespecting anybody's culture or anything like that." They should be fired at the minimum. And if Ubisoft goes out of business because of this, it's their own fault. They did this to themselves.
Apparently one of their consultants was a woman who made a lot of claims as to the sexuality of ancient Japanese that were famously inaccurate.
Wow.
And she was a consultant
She
on
did
this.
the actually.
This should be
Yes.
Ubisoft basically putting her out there and saying, "Look, we wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for this person advising us," and then they should sue her for damages.
Well, if the Japanese prime minister was upset that you can break stuff in a shrine, I can't imagine the government response to them disrespecting Uichi.
No.
But, yeah, good decisions. Hey, what does IGN think about this game? Playing as Yasuke in Shadows doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed.
Wow. They actually had a criticism about this. I'm surprised.
You want to know another
I totally
interesting
expected
thing?
them to say, "Oh, this is a 7 out of 10."
You know another interesting thing about the game? The credits roll for the end game is over 2 hours.
Holy cow.
Oh,
Which also
completed
raises
this already,
questions.
by the way.
Raises questions about Ubisoft's bloated spending on the game, which may come to light
Yeah.
someday.
It's kind of a funny thing. Originally, when movies and stuff came out, they only credited certain people. They credited their director, the producer, the main stars. Nobody else got a credit. You know what I mean? And credits were maybe 30 seconds long. And I forget which movie it was that credited everyone on the cast and crew. And since then, they've been doing that with everything. Everybody needs to get a mention. Every stinking person. No matter, how minimal their involvement was. they poked their head in and said hi, they get a credit.
Well, I
it
think
just makes it's just ridiculous.
I think Star Trek Discovery had something like 20 some odd producers.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
If you're at that stage, there's something wrong with your development.
Although, to be fair, if you have 20 some odd producers, that means you're getting money from 20 some odd people, which means you're spreading around the failure. So not any one single person is going to be filing for bankruptcy. They all only contributed
we are way off track.
Proportion. Yeah.
And the final story to bring up about our new wonderful Assassin's Creed game is apparently Ubisoft has a team of lawyers scouring the internet for any possible harassment that the Assassin's Creed developers might have, which a lot of people interpreted as, if I don't like the game, is Ubisoft going to sue me?
Maybe. That is entirely possible.
Because how do you interpret harassment when it could possibly be you guys made a terrible game and you're bad at what you do? Would they interpret that as harassment and then try and sue me?
Well, nowadays, that seems to be the minimum criteria for harassment. A couple of weeks back, we talked about what's his name over at Gearbox, who was somebody on Twitter came out and said, I'm because of the track record, I'm worried about Borderlands 4, and he was like, I don't need this harassment. And it's
then
like,
don't make it.
That really wasn't harassment.
Anytime you make anything and put it out there towards the public, you're subject to criticism. Now, harassment, I think when it comes to freedom of speech, you should have more than every right to tell somebody they're bad at what they do and you hate the content that they produce, yada, yada, yada. When you make it personal, when you attack them and their families, you imply that you're going to do horrible things to them, that's when you cross the line. That's when you've gone too far. And that's when I would say that's harassment. Now, any type of harassment, for the most part, I would say is bad. But if you're a public figure and you've accepted that you're a public figure, you have to accept criticism, even personal criticism that you're a bad person and you don't know what you're doing, as opposed to I'm going to attack everybody that you love. Like that would be bad. Somebody telling you you're a piece of crap. Freedom of speech. And that's how freedom of speech works in this country. I could say practically whatever I want to, because that's my opinion. We do not live in Europe. This is not Germany where they can hunt you down and fine you, as they've gone down the horror path already. This is America, and Ubisoft sucks. We also don't have a big enough of a footprint that Ubisoft would even find this podcast to sue us anyway. Once again, don't harass individual developers or issue death threats or do any of those sorts of things. And in fact, I wouldn't recommend contacting them in any way. But you're more than welcome to express your opinion about said game on the internet. This is a free country so far. What a bunch of garbage to go, well, we're going to have a team of lawyers scouring the internet to try and go after. What a bunch of pansies.
Seriously.
Did you realize if you make a game that everybody loves, you don't have to worry about that?
What?
You don't have to be stressed out about harassment if you don't produce things that are controversial that piss everyone off. But, whatever. I must be insane.
That is the most insane take I have heard tonight.
And now we've come to Daredevil. So we have a new episode of Daredevil, everybody. Daredevil, which I spent last week or the week before, I don't remember, opining about how much I love Daredevil for like an hour and a half. and how he's like one of my favorite superheroes of all time. Now, I have been passively optimistic when it comes to the new show. I've heard some good things, I've heard some bad things. I think I kind of fell in between with like a 7 out of 10. There was some stuff I liked, some stuff I was like iffy on. Still hopeful for the direction that the show was going. Well, believe it or not, the latest episode is right down that middle yet again. It has some good stuff and has some really bad stuff. And it's hard for me to tell exactly where this show is going at this point, or if it's even worth recommending to anybody. As a huge fan of the original Daredevil, and you might ask yourself, well, what are you talking about, Rhett? So, this last episode followed more human drama with Matt once again not being Daredevil. And we got a bunch of Kingpin being more Kingpin. There were some interesting aspects where Matt was slowly realizing he's turning back to wanting to be Daredevil again, and the Kingpin is slowly becoming the person he used to be. And that hopefully this is leading to a crescendo where they're going to both meet at one point. There was a great moment where we see Punisher show up. I'm very hesitant about where they're going with this.
Oh.
In the last episode, it seemed like the police were obsessed with the Punisher, and then somebody killed a heroic character dressed as the Punisher. Now, it's an interesting story where it's like, oh, people are turning the Punisher into this thing that he's not, and they're doing a bunch of stuff. So famously, the guy who created the Punisher hates people who like the Punisher. So much so that he hates that police have adopted sort of the Punisher skull. He hates that it's become some kind of a right-wing thing of people going after injustice or however they use it for right or wrong. To the point where he actually changed the Punisher's symbol because he hates that people are using it, which is really dumb because he doesn't get that the Punisher is like, it's like Death Wish, right?
Yes.
It's seeing injustice around you and wanting to take it into your own hands. It's the violence of the 70s. And it's like, I'm going to kill that guy and I'm going to fix this. Because the police are corrupt and they won't do anything. And everyone's just standing there watching the injustice happen. Well, I'm going to do something about it. This is the taking off all the shackles. It's like there's a part of you that agrees with the Punisher. As horrible a person that he is. I mean, there's a moment in the original Punisher, I think it was in the Daredevil show or it might even the Punisher show. I think it was the Daredevil season 3 maybe. Where he walks into a place and he's trying to buy stuff. And while he's walking out the door, the pawn shop guy is like, oh, well, you want, are you into videos and stuff? I can get you videos, maybe really young videos. The Punisher's like, dude, he locks the door and turns around and you're like, he just murders this guy because that's who he is. He doesn't put up with it. It's an interesting take for this playoff of people copying him and turning him into this sort of symbol, but they're riding dangerous down a road of everybody hating Punisher because they're going to go down everybody that you're crossing into the real life interpretation of this character as opposed to the comic book guy hating how people really like the character and changing the symbol to look really stupid and the character being really dumb. So I would caution that. And it's not a good sign where we have John Bernthal commenting about this thing, sort of. He basically says that he initially turned down Daredevil Born Again because he disagreed with the Disney's plans for the Punisher. What they wanted from Frank would not appeal to fans, which is not a good sign. And hopefully, when he did sign on, that they were able to change their minds. That is not my biggest grievance when it comes to this episode. My biggest grievance, Let's play a little bit of it, shall we?
This shit never ends. Look, I've been jerked around by the system my whole life. Last time I got 30 days, know what happened? I missed my SSI appointment and they cut. Begging for change, for food. And yeah, just once, I want a dessert.
So there's a side story that exists in the recent episode of the Daredevil where Matt becomes the lawyer for this petty criminal who gets arrested for stealing from a convenience store. And this is like the 30th time he's been caught.
Oh, gosh.
And he was stealing Fiddle Faddle. And they arrested him.
Okay.
And Matt convinces the state attorney to reduce his time, which, because he's been arrested so many times, he should be in jail for like 30 days, but he reduced it to 10 days. And then he goes on this tirade about how the system has failed him and that he deserves to be able to have something good. And that's why because he thinks it tastes good, and that's why he stole the Fiddle Faddle. And it becomes this preachy moment about how even though he did steal it and is a repeat offender, it's the system that has wronged him. And that he was justified in every aspect because he deserves good things. I am so sick of being preached to in things I like. When the guy is actually a criminal who did actually steal, and then I get talked down to about how the system has failed him because his life is miserable and he just wants good things like Fiddle Faddle. And that it's my fault for implying that he deserves the prison time because, hey man, his life just sucks. As if he hasn't been stealing and as if it isn't his fault. And as if he doesn't deserve the prison time, that he should not steal Fiddle Faddle. And once again, we have a piece of content to come out of Hollywood that's talking down to me about social issues. This isn't even a clever way of dealing with these sorts of situations. He's not contrite. He goes on a speech about how it's the system's fault. As opposed to, he's like, he could do the, I'm in a spiral of my life is miserable and I just wanted something good. And though I feel bad about it, like you could, but he won't even admit fault in the show. He just goes on a tirade that it's everybody else's fault. It's not my fault that I don't have Fiddle Faddle. It's everybody else's fault.
If it wasn't for the system, if the system just gave me what I wanted, then I would never have been there to steal because I would have already had it.
I don't deserve to go to jail.
The world does not owe you a living.
I don't deserve to go to jail for the things that I have done. This is literally the message we're getting out of this episode of Daredevil. I don't deserve this because it's the stupid system's fault. It's not my fault. If the system just let me steal, everything would be fine. There's no contrition. There's no issue with when discussing this that, hey, I did do wrong, and sometimes I just get desperate and yada yada. No, it's your fault. I don't deserve prison time for things that I do. I'm a victim.
You know, this would have been
I didn't do anything. I'm a victim.
Yeah. This would have been a perfect opportunity for Matt to at this point say, look, get your act together, dude. It is not our fault that you're behind bars. You are the one who decided to break the law. You. It would have been, you know, a good opportunity for him to say, take responsibility for your life. Get your act together. But instead, he probably just rolled over and just said, yeah, I agree with you.
And I don't know what the show is trying to do, because then we get this scene with Punisher later, where Daredevil's like, well, you're a victim of your circumstances, Punisher. And Punisher looks at him and goes, I don't say that pussy crap. I'm no victim.
Awesome.
And so it's like, I don't know what they're trying to do. Are they trying to imply that the manipulative right-wing stuff that people are taking the Punisher's actions in the wrong way? Or is the Punisher, or is this going to be a second guessing of these different moral values? This is a bad sign for the direction of a show that's already not performing well. I think we all knew that there were problems out the gate. And I'm concerned considering moments we're having in the show. I still hope it gets better. See, that's the thing. People assume we walk into this stuff going like, well, I hope it sucks because I hate it and everything. It's like, no, I want it to do well. Believe it or not, I want a good Snow White. I want good shows that talk about the human experience that I can attach myself to. I want a good Assassin's Creed Shadows. I don't want it to be bad. It's not my fault you suck, Ubisoft. You are not a victim of the system. Guess what? Accept responsibility, Hollywood. You've produced shitty content, and this is the world we live in now. This is the row you have to hoe. If your Snow White sucks, it's not my fault, it's yours. You have to convince me to come. It's not my obligation to support your content simply because it's there, because I have some sort of moral obligation, because you've turned it into some sort of social issue in the culture war, and we have to pick a side in this conflict. How about you make a good you make a good product, and I'll be interested in buying said product. How come this is so difficult for them to understand? How come they have to talk down to us about their politics? Because they feel a moral obligation to preach to everybody when it comes to all of the stuff that they push out. Every stinking time we get communism out of Snow White, we get disrespect from people's cultures out of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and now I'm talked down to that the system isn't helping a guy and allowing him to get off because he steals fiddle faddle in Daredevil?
How many people did he put in the ICU in the previous seasons?
So many.
Over crime?
Over crime.
Well.
So many.
Well, but at least this guy got his fiddle faddle.
At least he got his fiddle faddle.
Give one to Daredevil, by God. You know, and at least in years past, like, I know it was, like, all this was because they were told, well, if you look at the numbers, having things be like this will make you more money. And then but like, it's been years now. Like, we know it doesn't, or at least not always. Not if you're making a, $300 million, however God much Snow White cost after the reshoots. Like, maybe if you have it modestly budgeted, but like, especially in a world where you are competing against your own back catalog in the world of streaming, like, there needs to be a real big comeuppance with how they budget these things and the choices they make creatively.
There is a big story to talk about budgets, but before we go on, I'm going to give a TLDR really quickly to anybody who's joined us, and Ross, because he's here. Snow White did about $45 million over the first weekend, which is amazing.
No. Yeah, that's less than they initially thought.
In the movie, we get a little bit of preaching about how we need to share all of the apples for everybody. And that how she solves problems is by baking apple pie to give to the poor. That's how her family used to do it, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and by the way, she defeats the evil queen at the end by convincing the guards not to attack her because she remembered their names because they're people too.
Oh, well.
Thank God the evil queen didn't just fire them and rehire new people. Thank God.
Yeah.
She's
Thank God Gal Gadot was an idiot.
You're a part of my new collective. I know all of you. You have names. Assassin's Creed Shadows seems to be mediocre to okay gameplay wise. It looks good. But we have romance options, which kind of surprised everybody. There are opposite gender romances for each character. So Yasuke can date men and women. The canon story is that the female assassin is lesbian. That's the canon.
Oh my god.
And there are two romance options for Yasuke. One is a bisexual man who presents feminine. And the other one, which is probably more offensive, is they give you the option to romance a character named Oichi. And Oichi is a historical figure from Japanese history who is famous for her faithfulness as well as dedication to her husbands, to the point where she is seen as like the mother of Japan and feminine virtue.
God.
It's like giving George Washington a gay option or something in a game.
Or like, hey, do you want to bone down with Betsy Ross?
Yeah.
Like, what?
She's so dedicated to her husband that she died with him. Her second husband, she died with him. She wouldn't leave his side. She literally exemplifies how Japanese see sort of the perfect woman. She's an iconic, not just historical, but kind of fable character. And that might go down as probably the most offensive part of the game.
It's a bold move.
Yes. We'll see how
the
it plays
woman
out,
who
though.
is the icon of fidelity, and it was apparently getting a little bit piece of chocolate on the side, you know what I'm saying?
Apparently so.
Wonderful. What a great choice. What idiots.
A great choice. Before we move into the news dump, Severance Season 2 has ended. And the final episode's really good. They do answer questions, Ross. It does go places.
Oh my god. Well, I will keep watching then. I will watch the second episode this weekend.
I think I saw you watch the first episode of Masters of the Air.
I did. My girlfriend wanted to watch it, so we got it started, and it's good.
I told you it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it would be, and especially after you told me. But I knew she'd want to watch it, so I was just waiting for that moment. So
She'd probably like Severance too. That's probably something you both could watch.
Yeah, she needs to see the first episode, but I kind of want to like watch it, and so I can talk to you about it. And if I only ever see her once a week, so I could theoretically, if I just sit down and watch it faster. But I have a weird question about Masters of the Air, not to take the podcast off topic. Is the main guy, is he Mormon? The guy from Casper, Wyoming?
I don't know. They don't...
Because he doesn't drink.
I don't think so, but they don't say anything. Because in Band of Brothers, there was actually a maybe LDS guy in it, historically.
Oh, interesting.
I think it was Garnier.
I don't know about that.
Well,
that would be weird.
I can't remember which character.
You'd have to get to it later in life.
Well, see, that's the thing. He wasn't very religious, but on his thing, he wrote LDS, and one of the guys mentioned that later they were like, well, he wasn't very religious, but he said that if he agreed with anybody, it was the Mormons.
That's so weird.
So he wasn't really, but he kind of was. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was Garnier, but I have to double check. He might be the Casper, Wyoming boy, but I have to look into it. The show doesn't talk about it.
Yeah, it was just odd that oh, you don't drink or do it. That's really weird. I'm going to be honest, especially for this time. That's really strange.
I think he sleeps with a lady later, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe not faithful.
So sometimes people violate those principles. Anyway, hey everybody, news up.
The Distracted Gamer Podcast's big steaming pile of news dump.
Chance is wearing his pants to the bathroom once again. We are going into the news dump. First article. So apparently Disney had a big shareholder meeting. A few things to come out the big shareholder meeting. One, Iger fielded questions, but only through an AI that read them off to him.
Oh, that's really weird.
Number two.
So he only allowed the AI to ask him questions?
I think I think it filtered through the AI, like the AI read it, just so that they didn't have somebody randomly going on and saying something crazy. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
And number two, there was a proposition to redirect the studio away from the heavy LGBTQ messaging, and the board completely rejected the proposal and doubled down on the direction they're going, which I am encouraged by. Let Disney burn. Keep it going in the right direction.
Yeah, idiots. What morons.
As if the woke stuff wasn't already rejected universally, and things are going away from that. Yeah, double down, Disney. That's a good decision.
They must still be getting money from somewhere to do that, like some fund or like private investor or something, right? Yeah, like that's which is spend $1 to make a dime, but whatever. Okay.
In other Disney news, Lilo and Stitch's trailer has shattered records. Apparently, people really like it.
And my favorite part about it is people are upset that the ladies are too light-skinned, despite the fact they are Hawaiian.
Haven't born there. In other news, we have the first trailer for Happy Gilmore 2, which that's not what I wanted to open.
Oh my gosh.
That's right, everybody. We are getting a Happy Gilmore 2.
Yes.
The general perspective
Does the world
is...
need Happy Gilmore 2?
Yes, we do, Jason.
I don't know. I mean, I liked Happy Gilmore. I just wonder. Well, actually, Adam Sandler, he's been doing well with his stuff, so maybe.
Well, most of his movies of the past have 5-10 years been really lame and dumb, but his good stuff was Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Waterboy, like the first how many films. It looks fun. Just hopefully it's good. What else could I say?
Yeah. See, that's one of the things that
weird. It's like he makes good choices.
I wonder with anything that's coming out now whether or not it's going to be any good at all.
Well, it's an Adam Sandler movie in the last 15 years. The answer is no. However, he's good to be bros with because you'll be put in the movie and it will be filmed somewhere warm and sunny, and you'll have a nice vacation out of it as well as getting paid. I mean,
what was that vacation movie?
God bless him.
What was that vacation movie that was exactly that? Like him and his friends got paydays.
Yeah, was it? God, I can't remember. There's been several, I think, where it's literally
just made two of those.
Grown Ups.
Grown Ups.
Was it Grown Ups?
Yeah. Grown Ups is the worst of that, where literally it's just him getting his friends paydays.
Yeah.
Hubie Halloween is terrible, by the way.
Just to let it be known, Adam Sandler, we would be in your movie. Go ahead and pay us. We're good for that. So
yeah. When you get that sponsorship from Sandals, and feel free to invite us to be in the film. I will be a background extra. It's no problem.
Adam Sandler, I volunteer as tribute. Bring me on. My favorite was Lil Nicky.
Your favorite was Lil Nicky.
Don't you dare just try to get in his good graces. Good Lord, woman.
Seriously? That's what I grew up with. My father and I and my brother would watch Adam Sandler movies.
Well, because your dad likes bad movies.
I love them.
Little Nicky
out of all of his...
It's like the first of the bad ones. Little Nicky's.
Yeah, that's like out of his early
God.
repertoire. It's the first dog shit one.
God,
That is hilarious.
Popeye's chicken.
You do
What
not.
about Big Daddy or
You do not
Waterboy?
You do
Waterboy's great.
You do not love Little Nicky. What is wrong with you?
Don't flatter him. He
Listen.
knows.
When he's like getting the flask. Heck yeah.
Can I be the new O'Doyle that bullies you in your new movie or whatever?
His brother Cassius. Come on. I
Um,
know this show.
Oh my god.
He puts a pineapple in Hitler's butt.
Silver, I'm
just-
upset. But we must forge on. Hey Ross, the news I alluded to.
Yeah.
Apple is apparently losing over $1 billion a year on streaming.
Sweet God. Hey,
maybe you should not do that anymore, Apple.
well, but wouldn't that make Hollywood nervous?
Every one of their shows looks like they throw absurd amounts of money at it.
My girlfriend was over after we watched that first episode of Masters of the Air. We were scrolling through the rest of Apple, and I'm like, all of their shows look really well made.
Yes.
All of them.
Big money.
And there's can't be that many subscribers, but because they just make $1 quadrillion a year, what do they care? I don't know
Well,
if that's
Apple-
how much. I know they make a lot.
Apple is one of the only companies that can just shrug and go whatever because they have infinite money, and they do produce content that has gotten like Emmy awards and stuff. Like they get attention for the prestige content that they produce. So it might be worth their brand to lose money just to get the attention. However, most streaming can't afford to lose $1 billion a year.
No.
The
Apple
thing
can.
is that Apple doesn't need to lose $1 billion per year on this stuff. They can still make this great content and not do the streaming and give it off to like Netflix or Hulu or somebody else and instead
they won't pay
make
that
money.
much. They won't pay what Apple's paying for this stuff. The amount that it would cost them to sell it to somebody, they won't pay. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, because what's that animation company that's owned by Nike? Because it's like all nepotism. It's like the son of one of the CEOs or whatever. And they make all this prestige animation and it makes no money. But it's all memorable stuff. But it's just not like popular. Like, it's just, this is rich guy stuff. Like, this is insane amounts of money stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's their hobby, Like,
So-
it's the company hobby.
So Ross, Severance, it's one of those shows. It's kind of a bottle show where it spends all its time mostly in an office.
Sure.
They spent $20 million an episode on season 2.
I was gonna say, I guarantee it's a shocking amount of money. Well, because you know what though? I mean, not to be nerdy, and not that I know a lot anyway, but I guarantee like the vast majority of the stuff in that office set had to be made for that show. It's not something they just went and
built
bought.
the building.
Yeah, I mean, that mid-century aesthetic, like that, I guarantee they had to make all of that for that show.
It's a
And
really
that
good
cost
looking
buku
show.
bucks.
It's really good looking. It's eerie. It's both quirky and kind of a scary movie. Or
Yeah, it's a very off-putting.
yes, it's
setting.
an off-putting setting.
Yeah, it's uncomfy.
Shifting on. Apparently, after Halo and Fallout and Minecraft, Microsoft CEO says you're going to see more live-action Xbox adaptations.
But Halo was terrible. What? I mean, we'll see how Minecraft does. I bet it'll make money.
Probably.
I hope not.
Look forward to more Xbox properties.
Gears of War? Gears of, huh?
Yeah, but it'll mostly be strong women or whatever. Like, they won't get it right.
Yeah. Listen, they needed to make the Gears of War thing 10 years ago and have it all be roided to shit WWE guys, all right? That's what they need. I mean, I want Batista at his most roided, screaming,
Batista's
chainsawing, and also roided out WWE guy, but painted white.
Batista's the only right choice for Marcus Phoenix.
I mean, I kind of, get that Filipino up on stage, man. Get him a do-rag and some terrible facial hair, and let's get it going. But now he's off the roids, so it's too late.
No, we could put a fake suit or CGI him. We could do that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hey, the Die Hard and Predator director John McTiernan laments the downfall of Hollywood and blames literature of our time and calls comic books garbage.
Wow.
You know what? I mean, I am the local comic hater. I hate superheroes on this podcast, but he's not wrong, but he's wrong in how he's looking at it. If the headline is to be believed, Hollywood's reliance on previous media is really crippling them creatively.
Yeah.
Like it is horrendous. I mean, the fact that even when they try to use it, they use it poorly now. And it's because all their writers are dog shit. I mean, they've had this crutch. Because this has been a thing since the 80s. I mean, one of the most notorious flops of the 80s was based on a book. But it was a book that should have been like a prestige film for like $5 million, and they ended up spending like $45 million in like 1986. So it was stupid. But
well, if you don't like the direction Storytell it is going, make a good story.
Yeah, but the problem is the people with the money want a sure thing, and they think the sure thing is, well, does it come from a book or something else?
Something's popular? Something easy?
Yeah.
Recognizable IP? We are getting Space Marines 3.
That's awesome.
Yay.
I think Adam brought up last week.
Delightful.
Also, to nobody's shock and the massive success recently, Severance has been renewed for season 3.
Hey, good job. Good for them.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a good show. And they did answer a bunch of questions this season. So yeah.
Thank God.
So a bunch of people really enjoyed One Piece. I had a bit mixed feelings on the One Piece show, but the one of the co-showrunners, Matt Owens, is leaving the One Piece show, which might not be a good sign for the direction that the show will go in the future, because a lot of people liked it.
That stinks, definitely. It could be nothing, but it could stink. That could be bad.
You know what everybody's been clamoring for? If it's going to show up?
New content.
I love a blank screen. It's so good.
Oh, come on. They are going to reboot Power Rangers. And it's going to be on Disney Plus.
Courtesy of Disney Plus. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Run! Listen, if those cheapskate Israeli producers aren't on this, I don't want it, all right? I don't like the ones that just stole the Japanese show and dubbed it over with good-looking teenagers from California. Listen, that's what I want, all right?
I'm going to be honest, I was a green Power Rangers man with the big lizard.
Oh, dude, me too, for sure.
Yeah.
I also like the White Ranger too, but
well, that was him.
I think I had his. That was it. Yeah. I had his sword as a kid. I had that toy.
And he turned into the White Tiger.
Yeah.
I think the Green Ranger wasn't he supposed to be like a bad guy, and then he became the good guy
initially. Yeah.
He was supposed to be a good guy, but Rita or whoever the bad guy was at the time subverted him, and they eventually broke him free of her control, and he then came over to their side.
Oh, okay, it's been a while. I was also 5, so
the Green Ranger's actor has since passed away, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, but speaking of passed away, we lost George Foreman.
No, my grill.
Oh.
Do they all stop working now that George Foreman's
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I was George Foreman, as soon as the technology was there, I want it Wi-Fi capable, and I want it to brick the second I croak. The second you get my death certificate in hand, that thing don't work no more.
Basically, in honor of George Foreman, you have to go out and light your grill on fire.
That's right. That's right. Pay homage.
One of the commercials at the beginning of this episode that we were flipping through was the George Foreman grill commercial that I put in there.
Nice.
In honor
of good old George. Now, I know notoriously his career, he was most well known for losing to Muhammad Ali. However, George Foreman should have beaten Muhammad Ali because he was a monster. The reason why it was a notorious fight is because Muhammad Ali kind of was able to maneuver and trick him, which they called it the rope-a-dope. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Into overcoming it. George Foreman, by all rights, was better, younger, faster, stronger. Just Muhammad Ali pulled it off, which is why it's a notorious fight. But George Foreman was a monster in the ring. He was big and mean, and he could hit really hard. And was at one point one of the greatest, if not the greatest boxer of all time. So, it was unfortunate to see him pass. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the joke that he named like all of his sons George.
And his daughter.
Oh yeah, even his daughter. Yeah.
It's like the Greeks and Nick. They love it.
So he could remember him.
Oh, there we go. One of his daughter's names is Georgetta.
Yeah.
George.
Yeah.
At least it was slightly feminine.
Oh, I love it. Bless you, George.
Yes, you will be missed. Speaking of reboots, we're getting a Resident Evil reboot.
In what sense? You talking the movies?
Yeah, from Sony.
Oh. Listen, I'm going to be honest. If it doesn't have, I just forgot her name.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have her in them, I don't want them. It's like Underworld. You got to have the lady.
I think it's from Sony.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. As if we don't need to reboot everything. Everybody forgets that we had a Resident Evil reboot on Netflix that everyone hated, and everyone forgets.
Yeah, that show was terrible. The best part of it was the actor that played Wesker, who was, definitely not a Wesker lookalike, but
No.
he's a great actor, right?
But that's a bummer. He was on John Wick.
Yes.
Masahiro Sakurai, famed for making the Smash Brothers games, is saying that Japanese developers need to stop making Americanized games, and I agree.
They don't seem to be doing poorly with games that were just for Japanese audience. So
If it's a good game, people will come, and they like the quirky Japanese stuff. Stop trying
What
to
does he
cater
mean?
to... Well,
what is he referencing specifically? Do we know?
Well, let's read a little bit. In the decades, the video game landscape has undergone remarkable transformation thanks to globalization, rising development costs, and the rise of digital stores. In the past, Japanese video games were considered exclusive treasures, accessible in many cases only to local players. However, today, most of these titles are within reach of global audiences, a change that, while celebrated by many, has been criticized by some developers. And he says, Masahiro Sakurai, renowned creator of the famous franchise Super Smash Bros. And Kirby, has shared his opinions on this trend during a recent interview. He suggested Japanese developers should focus on what truly inspires them instead of following the trend of creating Americanized games. According to him, foreign players seek authenticity and creativity stemming from Japanese spirit. I would agree with that. It's not necessarily my idea. But I think the ideal is to make games the way you like them, and the people who can accept them will enjoy them. I think he's talking about politics.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, and the thing is, that's like most players don't want that either. Like
most don't.
Because I just wasn't sure if he meant like either accessibility to foreigners or like no localization in any way. Like that, I don't agree with. But like, I mean, that's the reality. I mean, that's the case with everything. Like, just make a good game. Make the game that you have the passion for, and people will find it. But if you try to add everything to appeal to everyone, that's a really fine edge to to play with, and you're gonna get cut.
I agree. In our final story, apparently with all of the fear surrounding AI, a lot of celebrities are calling on the government, in particular Trump, to protect copyright in Hollywood from being exploited by AI like OpenAI and Google and whatnot. And as this article says, yes, you read that right. Many of the same celebrities who spent the last 8 years vilifying Trump are now relying on his administration to block big tech's attempt to sidestep copyright laws and monetize their work without fair compensation. Mark Ruffalo being one of them.
Thing is, like if I'm not to be political, but if we don't, foreign AI will. So I don't know about that.
Well, I guess the question is, do AI, but how does it relate to things like Hollywood and media and whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
Like AI's coming no matter what we do.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Now, how that relates to something like art is a whole big question, because copyright's kind of going out the window. Because you can generate an AI image that looks really good, almost perfect, in someone else's style. Now, are you stealing an image they didn't draw? No. But is it kind of stealing thousands of images at the same time? Kinda. So then what's the answer when it comes to these sorts of things, especially now that we have AI generating like voices? I mean, we talked about the article from last week of the voice actress for the that stinking Sony game with the robots. And she talked about how them using her voice made her kind of upset because it's damaging the voice acting world. But it's like, did you sell your rights in perpetuity to your voice? Because if you didn't, then you have something to say. But if you did, then it's like, well, then they don't need you anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I doubt. Well, usually, from what I understand of those, you don't sell your voice. You sell your work on that project, and if they want your voice again for another project,
here's the thing,
they
Jason.
have to call you back in.
Some of those licenses that they sign when it comes to some of those projects, that they get their image in perpetuity, so that they can. Usually, it was to recreate their image for promotional material,
right?
So they don't have to bring them in constantly or ask for permission. So those are in contracts, depending on which contract you sign. I suppose people are more savvy now that also means we could just use you in every product forever. And maybe they need to reconsider or rewrite contracts when it's related to things like voice acting or your image being used. Who knows? But,
it's kind of like how we have actors like when I forgot his name, but Grand Moff Tarkin. When they just had him in Rogue One, and it's like he's from a completely different era, an era that couldn't even conceive of this kind of thing.
And his family,
because of how. Yeah, but would he have? We don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's I guess you can be happy your family's making money. What do you care? You're worm food, but
yeah, whatever.
But the thing is they still had to ask his family. It's not like they just were like, well, we're just going to do it.
Yeah. Jason, they made an AI program with her character speaking, and they didn't ask her permission.
Right.
And then maybe they didn't
I just
have
meant
to.
Peter Cushing, his family.
Well, my point is we are getting to the point where they don't have to ask permission, which is the whole point of this discussion.
Right, but the thing is if they did sign a contract that says we can use your image and voice in any way we see fit, and then you're using that voice and you are using AI to generate more lines, well, yeah, you did sign away your voice.
I know,
that's what I said. You would have known that would be used.
But
that's
also a good point. This was the point I was making.
I understand. I'm saying I don't know enough about the thing to all I can say is, unless she signed a contract that said that those things are okay, this is not okay.
But apparently they have the right to, because she says she doesn't like it, but she has no legal standing to take it down. And literally they set it up where you can talk to her character now in perpetuity. Like it's an AI response sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that in my opinion, in my opinion that is wrong. But if that is the contract she signed, then she should have looked into that contract a little bit better before signing.
Well, and I wonder if the contracts are going to get more, because who knows what the contract actually said, right? Like we're just guessing. I want like more complicated or more explicit in what in perpetuity means.
I would expect it needs to be more explicit.
Yeah.
We're in a new era, and they're going to have to be a lot more like, oh, well, people that sign these contracts like 100 years ago, can we suddenly start getting movies with actors that are dead? Well, you signed a thing, I can do whatever I want.
I think that there is going to be litigation about this eventually. Somebody is going to use something, and even though it is based on a contract that says in perpetuity, somebody is going to say, well, no. And it'll go to, the Supreme Court, and we'll get a ruling on
that was partially what contracts are. Jason, that was partially what the strike was over, was using AI.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But it was never really resolved.
I think it was. I don't remember what the ins and outs was, but it's a lot of writers were afraid that their roles were going to be supplanted by AI writing. And then we got really bad AI writing in a lot of shows. And then a lot of actors and artists were saying that, well, they're worried about the new AI stuff replacing them. And then we had, what's that stupid TV show that came out? Secret War, where the whole beginning was AI generated. And it's like, all right, because I think they want to protect their jobs, but they don't give a shit when it comes to making it cheaper and easier and almost like non-existent for them to just reproduce and regurgitate stuff through AI. Believe it or not, I could write a book right now using AI, just give it prompts and tell it what I want it to say. And it could write a fairly decent book. Now, are we getting to the point where we can actually understand the difference between a well-written book or an AI book? It's going to get to the point where it's almost indistinguishable. How are they going to know if I've written it? It's my ideas. I might not be able to put together a sentence to make it sound interesting, but I got crazy story ideas. I could write an AI book that's awesome.
Especially in an industry that is renowned for writers subcontracting out work.
Yep.
I mean that's been a huge thing in Hollywood for a long time, where writers will take on all these projects, and then just to at least get a start, they'll subcontract it out to somebody else to get a bare bones starter script going.
Everybody talks about how George R. R. Martin is amazing. He copied just whole sections from history.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In his books. He copied a lot of the Borgias in Italy, as well as a bunch of English history.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, is he a great writer, or is he just clever? Because history comes out more horrific and interesting than sometimes normal writing could. Like, where is the line drawn? There was a question about copyright in music forever. Now you can just change things slightly and call it like a remix. And it's someone else's music. Like, we are getting to muddy territory when it comes to AI.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the answer is going to come when we're hip deep in it, and it's already a disaster. Sadly,
you can't unring the bell.
You can't unring the bell, and it's, I think, much like the beginning of the internet. I don't think we understand what this is yet. Like, I mean, there's a really famous interview with David Bowie where people are like, or somebody asks him, like, what do you think of this whole internet thing? And the guy that's interviewing him, I want to say, was like, well, I mean, it's just email. And I mean, someone like David Bowie, I mean, he's a singer, man. Like, and don't get me wrong, like entertainers, like it's not like he's an idiot, but like he's like, I don't think we understand what this is yet. He's like, I think it's a life form that we don't even understand. Like we can't grasp.
I mean,
and yeah, I mean, if you're talking like,
go ahead.
No, I was like, if you're talking 1995 and you're learning about email for the first time, yeah, you have no clue what this is going to be yet. You can't possibly begin to understand.
Talking about David Bowie, it got me to think about how dramatically the music industry's changed. It used to be the ability to sell your music. You had to go through a studio that could produce it, that had the money to produce it. And then they would print the copies, and then they would promote you, and then they would sell these records, which turned into tapes and 8-tracks and CDs. No one buys physical medium anymore.
No, and it's been a huge hit. Yeah.
So do records mean anything? Do people really buy records? Or is it just singles, and then people replay your singles on Spotify or YouTube or something? And then that's how you get your attention. And most of the money they make now are from concerts, not from record sales. Let alone the fact that an average person has so much access to quality stuff now that it is not that expensive to make your own studio in your own home, sing your own music and produce your own record, and then put it on the internet, make it accessible to everybody almost immediately. Yeah. Completely changing the paradigm of the music industry. Used to have to crawl through like broken glass to get studios to pay attention to you, to get your records out, to get like they would exploit for years all of these artists. And now it's like, well, I can make my own thing. I mean, this podcast is a perfect example. Like, we are nobodies sitting at home at different locations, having conversations and putting it on the internet. The ability to do this comfortably, even 10 years ago, like we couldn't produce our own thumbnails for the life of us. Now it's almost it's almost easy by comparison. Like, we have music for the intro. Like, I can generate music on the internet using AI. I could generate images for thumbnails using AI. But like, it is a whole new world. Like, the ability to produce things has been so non-centralized and distributed across vast amounts of like everybody can almost do everything at the moment. Everybody can write their own book. Everybody can make their own music. They can produce your own podcast. You can do your own whatever. It's been so decentralized. It's like, what are we going to see now? I got thinking the other day, it's like, well, if it's so easy, why don't we see, just a plethora of new artists? We do. And we don't hear about them. Yeah. But if you go down Instagram, I'm constantly running into a guy. A lot of the time, it's like the song's okay. Sometimes it's pretty good. A lot of the times it's not that great. But it's like the options, like I keep running into people who nobody's heard of. And it's like, oh, I kind of like that song. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I'll save it.
Yeah.
You go down
There's
the rabbit
a guy
hole
that I
of
found on
artists.
YouTube. His name is Leo. He does heavy metal versions of pop songs. His channel is Frog Leap Studios, and I love listening to his stuff. And I found him through YouTube, and he's a really good musician. I can't say he's a great vocalist. I tend to enjoy the ones where he invites other vocalists in to sing, and he does the instrumentals. But he's been entertaining, and you just there's been a number of artists that I've found on YouTube, and that's how they're releasing their songs now.
It's a brave new world.
I've found a lot of new musicians through Instagram ads, and it's funny because you were talking about, I don't even know if people make albums, and I think they don't, unless you're like rock bands do it still, but they're ones that are previously established. Because there's a newer rock band that I listen to, Dexter and the Moon Rocks, and it's all singles. Like, they don't have an album right now. They're new, they're really new, but like, I don't think it's a thing yet. I think it is. It's all singles.
I mean, it's easy enough to release albums too. You just go on to like Spotify or
sure,
iTunes Music and just say these 10 songs are an album.
But I bet you they look at it as, why put in the effort to get a full 10-song album when most people are going to pick out maybe 3 songs they really like? So I'm just going to slow roll it and just release them as all singles.
Yeah,
and put in
it's
all the effort
probably
into
easier
that.
to do that. Because it's like, I can get one song done, and I can release it, and then work on another song while I'm making money on the song that I just released. So, yeah, I see that. I'm just saying that it's kind of an arbitrary thing now.
Yeah.
Where I can designate these 10 songs as an album, and who's to say they're not? It's just, I've called them an album. And especially if you're not talking about physical media.
Well, it's so arbitrary, too, that a lot of it comes down to whether or not you go viral or someone finds it.
Yeah. I mean, literally, yes. Like,
I mean,
you better hope to God that somebody on TikTok finds it and makes it huge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, like, obviously, like with this podcast, whether or not we get attention, a lot of it has to do with whether or not we make a decent podcast, but a lot of it also has to do with whether or not the algorithm just deigns to get it to show up on the front page at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people just Google something and someone just happens to stumble upon it. And that's how a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of arbitrary just happenstance as to whether or not people get attention with the content that they produce. There could be amazing artists producing amazing songs that you'll never find because nobody sees it, because it just doesn't show up like on the algorithm, or they don't find it when they search or whatever.
Mm.
It's a crazy random world, and it's become both easier and harder to get attention. You can now produce your music and no one will hear it.
It's wonderful. I love it so much.
We're all going to be amazing and no one will find us. It'll all just be Mr. Beast videos.
Screaming into the void.
Yeah. I mean, the fairness when it comes to the ability to get attention on the internet is I mean, Mr. Beast dominates. He puts out one video and he is all over the algorithm. And I've never seen a Mr. Beast video. Ever. I haven't seen one.
No, me neither. Yeah, I don't watch him.
But because of his success, it's pushed more because of the popularity, and he is much easier to find. So it's almost like a snowball effect. The more attention, the more, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting discussion. Well, we're going to roll finite. Hey everybody's Fight Night Stupid Conversation.
We are here.
I gotta open crap.
He's dying.
Silver's probably done something really dumb.
No!
that seemed a bit defensive there. So
No!
Yes.
No!
What's the first thing I open up, Jason?
I don't have anything for this. This is all Silver.
Oh, I got stuff.
Uh-huh.
If you would make your way, Rahet, over to Dropbox, you'll find a new file name.
Oh my gosh.
Folder. And in there will be
no.
a thing. One of the first things.
Silver's
Don't want to
mischief.
send any spoilers.
So, just to recap here, Bigfoot won our tournament, but Silver wasn't too happy about that, and she created a monster out of the body parts of the defeated, the other defeated monsters, and this became the secret boss that now Bigfoot has to face.
Beast of Bladenborough has been, or Beast of Bray Road has been added to this monstrosity. And I do realize I actually missed one. I forgot to add one to this horrible amalgamation. And it was the Frogman of Loveland. Yeah, I forgot about him. I wasn't there for that episode, turns out. So he's added.
How dare you?
You're about to see him.
Should I play this video? Like, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my lord.
Just,
Was there audio? I didn't.
Yes, there is.
Okay, hold on. I'll fix it. I don't even know if it's formatted correctly. Oh no! I'm gonna fix it. It's just formatted. It's formatted
I was like,
butt.
is it destroyed?
No. There we go. I'm fixing it. I wasn't prepared. You didn't tell me this was coming.
I want it to be a surprise. There you go.
Was this like Pokemon?
It's on topic. It's Super Smash Bros.
A wild
Yeah.
horror monster appears. All right, what else?
Oh, God.
What else am I doing, Silver?
It's just uploaded. I recreated Jason's type of PowerPoint thing here. There's so much information on this stupid thing, though.
All right. We have an awkward Jason PowerPoint coming. That's great.
What even happened? Why wasn't that on there? Why didn't that save to it? Oh, that's disappointing. There's an error in the image. Hold on.
How come you're doing your old woman voice?
It's fine, darling. It's fine. Look, you gotta go to the different image. That one's fixed. Has some important information on it. The other one was an old one.
All right, Grandma.
Yes. I even named this thing.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, did you find the right one?
Yes.
One with so much information that the text is so tiny that I'm just gonna read it off from my iPad here.
Well, I believe it or not, it takes a bunch of time to flip through menus and open things.
Well, I could start reading it, so...
Image.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I gotta format this.
Oh, yes.
It's like he's got a stand.
Yeah.
My
Got
boy,
terrific
so
growth.
much- What is this?
My boy.
My boy.
This is the... Yes. This is the Mahai boy of Silver's Behind. Anyway, yeah, the previous image did not include the text at the bottom of the image there, where it says the My Boy emerges from a graveyard found in the darkest corners of Silver's Behind.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a different pronunciation to that, who knows. Okay, so it is 10 to 12 feet tall, the height of the Flatwoods monster, but the torso, this is not to scale, the image, by the way. The torso is 2 feet.
No, standing by redwoods. It's fine.
Also, I took all this information. I did not go back through your slides to get the abilities of each and every one of these monsters to add it to it. I just Googled it, because my gosh, I didn't want to do that. Alright, so, it can jump large distances, 50 feet in 3 jumps. It has glowing eyes. It has a very strong arm of the Nandi bear, tough hide of the left arm, powerful jaws. It can swing from its devil monkey tail. It has sharp claws, and the Beast of Bray Roadhead and arm can move independently.
Okay, with a gun?
So, yes, I kept the gun in.
That's probably the deadliest part of this unclean creature.
Okay, so it's claws of the Capilobo, the slappy feet of the Dover Demon, horns of the Goatland of Maryland, ears of the Chupacabra, tail of the Devil Monkey, jaws of the Beast of Bladenboro, extra head / arm / gun of the Beast of Bray Road. Ross is gone.
He bailed.
The right arm of the Nandi Bear, the torso of the Mongolian Deathworm, left arm of the Lizard Man of Skateboard Swamp, the tail of the Shunka Warakin, legs of the Enfield Horror, head of the Flatwoods Monster, and the eyes of the Loveland Frogman. There he is. There's Mahai Boy.
Alright.
Bigfoot wins. This thing is such an abomination. It wants to die.
No.
You can see it in its face. It's saying, "Put
Hold
me
on.
out of my misery, please."
I did run this through ChatGPT.
Oh my
course
gosh.
you did.
It says, I literally gave ChatGPT all those stats there I put in, and the name, and it's like, alright, let's pit the My Boy against Bigfoot in an all-out brawl. Bigfoot's advantages are raw strength, endurance and stamina, tactical intelligence, stealth, and evasion. The My Boy's advantages are a weaponized body, multiple attack points, durability and armor, and agility and mobility. And then it gives us a fight breakdown in rounds. It gave me a lot on this one. Oh, thank goodness you're back.
She
Okay,
needs
round
backup.
one.
Uh-huh.
Sorry,
Yes, round.
my computer literally crapped its pants. I don't know what happened.
Oh no. Okay, so round one says a strength battle, where Bigfoot goes in for a grapple, but My Boy's brute force and claws allow it to deal serious damage up close. Bigfoot gets clawed up, but retaliates by grabbing My Boy and slamming it into the ground. Round two! Adaptation. Bigfoot realizes it can't win by brute strength alone and starts using its environment, throwing rocks, dodging attacks, and striking with hit-and-run tactics. Just every time I have to read its name, My Boy... I can't! My
It's
boy
like her first
tries
child.
to use its jumping ability. It's just saying its name followed by the ability it's doing. It just, My Boy tries to use its jumping ability.
Oh my god.
Funny to me. But Bigfoot counters by using its long reach to grab it mid-hair and toss it. Okay. Round 3, endgame. If Bigfoot can drag the fight out, it might wear My Boy down.
Father, no.
I can't breathe. What if My Boy lands fatal claw or bite? It's over. The fight is brutal. Bigfoot lands bone-shattering punches, but My Boy rips it with claws and fangs. Winner, My Boy, 7 out of 10 times. Oh gosh, that's a struggle to read.
All right.
We can't allow this thing to win. This thing.
I have
Hold
a
on,
counter.
but ChatGPT says... Really quick, ChatGPT says, winner, My Boy, 7 out of 10 times. It's simply too well equipped for combat, while Bigfoot is a survivor, not a killer.
I bring up an example.
That's ridiculous. You do
No!
not but play God, and I think your octoparrot would agree.
Probably shouldn't be.
That's ridiculous.
My point exactly.
Sir, we don't play God here. That's ridiculous. You do nothing but play God.
And I am the god of this new creation.
Listen, the reality is, the first time My Boy tries to crisscross applesauce on old Bigfoot, that little tiny 2-foot torso is going to snap right in half like a twig under the sheer weight of between the lower half and the upper half, and it's over. It's done.
Well, this reminds
No,
me.
you're missing the point of the Beast of Bray Road, which can move independently, so it just arises from the broken body of the My Boy and shoots
But it
him.
can't move.
It moves independently.
Its broken body is laying there on the ground. It's stuck.
Only the Mongolian deathworm part, but no.
The
Bray Road moves independently as the stat state.
The rest of it would be
Hold
paralyzed. Its
Hold
spine is
on.
snapped.
Let's have a reasonable argument of this monstrosity. You can't create
reasonable.
hold on. You can't create a fictional creature. It's like when you're a kid and you go, I'm going to make the most awesome animal of all kind. and you're like, it's going to have the body of a rhinoceros, so it's its body is super defendable, and that's going to be really fast, so it's got legs of a cheetah, and it's like, well, here's your problem: those cheetah legs aren't equipped to handle the body of a rhinoceros. And I think what we've created here is a horrible amalgamation from which God shall strike you from the earth that cannot sustain itself because the body cannot function properly. You're looking at a torso from a 2-foot worm and then body parts from 7-foot creatures on the spindly, weird tri-legs of a tinier creature from which this would collapse. Where does it poo? Where does it come?
In the woods. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Yes, exactly. Right from the bottom of the Enfield horror legs, right in the crisscross.
Oh my! The crisscross gooch, if you will.
How does this
taint
not
of the
have,
creature.
How does this not have the same problem that a newborn has, where its head is bobbing around because it can't keep it upright? Let alone
These are
having
my
this
questions.
wolf creature crawling out of its back with a gun.
Because it's a stand. Duh.
It's only a phantom thing. It doesn't actually exist.
I have serious questions about its physiology or whether or not it would not be in constant pain or die immediately.
Well, I think we know that.
You can see it in its eyes. It wants to die. It's saying, "Put me out of my misery."
Whose eyes are those?
Look at the frogman's.
Yeah. The one I forgot to add.
The Loveland Frogman?
Yeah. Yeah. There was this fantastic image of which I should added to this horrible monstrosity where the Loveland Frogman just had a big butt.
He had a big old badonk, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just like, I should have added that. Give some cushioning.
Good lord.
Frogman got. Well, once again, this is the problem of the creature is imbalanced and would not survive its horrible pain.
That's why it has the great equalizer.
A gun?
You know,
the great equalizer. It's right there.
Okay.
You know, since this is made up of all the other creatures, then this means that he has one of the weaknesses too, which is the fact that he's scared by loud noises. So Bigfoot comes in, beats his chest. It causes him to panic, which means that then Bigfoot just.
Well, it depends on whose ears, Jason, because this is amalgamation of
yeah.
Like, what is the chupacabra?
It looks like he has. It looks like he has, very big ears right there, so he can hear the sound even better.
Well, here's my question.
You can just hear him freaking coming. He's not going to be scared off. It's a chupacabra.
I have a serious question, all right? Whose brain? Who runs this horror creature?
Clearly it's the Flatwoods Monster because I specified the head of the Flatwoods Monster.
Okay,
but you
so
didn't
the Flatwoods Monster
brain, so I'm going to say
is steering this flesh mecha.
I'm going to say the Mongolian deathworm brain got in there.
Oh, God.
Well, we're now the one that created this horror creature. Is it the Flatwoods Monster? Because that's his head?
Yes. I said the head of the Flatwoods Monster.
Well, you could have brain of something else.
Brain.
You've got lips of and eyes of a different
brain
creature.
of the Loveland of Frogman.
So, if I recall, the Flatwoods Monster, we knew very little about. It was just a giant pepper shaker that could dunk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It dunk really well, I want to add.
So, considering that the Flatwoods Monster's powers came from its ability to do sweet moves on the basketball court, it now is hindered
which means it's
by
practical.
its body that isn't equipped to dunk on other monsters.
That's true.
What are you talking about? He was born this way. He's adapted.
What do you mean?
He's born this way by
this way.
an uncaring god. I.e. you.
Last week, he didn't have a werewolf with a gun come out of his back. He wasn't born this way. He was created in a lab.
He's a Frankenstein's monster. Come on.
Like I said, he was Frankenstein this way.
Frankenstein was hot. He is not.
Well, look at this thing.
Yes, we have been.
Would you
It
make out
obviously
with,
wants to be put out of
with
its
my
misery.
boy? Well, then I have a question, Silver. Would you make out with my boy?
No, this is my son.
Is
She's
he
not
hot
that
enough?
kind of boy, Mom.
Is he hot enough to make out with? But you're like, oh, my son's kind of hot.
My son's a good-looking boy.
Oh my god.
Look
You're
at
like
him.
that parent where like their child can do no wrong.
Yep.
Even if the
Exactly.
child's kind of a piece of crap, you're like, I believe in my child.
Yeah, the wide open mouth there. I should have added the little chat bubble where it's like, "Mother, help me."
Please
My
kill
boy.
me.
He seems all teeth and tongue, if I'm going to be honest.
In Jaws, powerful
Yeah.
Jaws.
I don't know about that.
What's the white thing in the
I
back?
specified Jaws. What's the what?
The white thing in the
It's
back.
one of his tails.
So he has
Oh, that's the devil monkey tail.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, adding the werewolf creature in the back really off balances it. It's going to be laying down shooting at Sasquatch. Reclining and shooting.
I mean, I could have had him like come up over top of the flatwood monster's head to balance it out, but that would have looked ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that would have been
Like
too
this
far.
Also, this screen did not have enough room. My boy.
My boy. Well,
Wait. Also, need I remind you, it is still Women's History Month. Do you really want to
I don't recognize this. Yeah, no. No.
Well, she
really
can
won't support
do.
your diversity.
She can do anything she wants. I forgot about that.
Yes,
But this is a
my
patriarchy.
executive
So
no,
And
my
not during this
executive
month.
order of this thing wins. We did this last year, but I say goes this month,
That's
which
true.
I have not invoked the entire month. This
You
is
know,
my
that's the
last chance.
strongest argument you've given to this horror monster. I'm going to vote for my boy.
Good.
So now it's 2 versus however the rest of it goes.
I'm on
All
Bigfoot's
right.
side. This thing is a walking
Wow. Wow.
cancer, and it needs to go down.
Jason's anti-women.
This is,
You know what?
I just said this was a patriarchy.
Your
This is a
misogyny is
hate
showing.
crime. Ross, do you really want to be a bigot?
Absolutely, and I am one. So yeah, I'm voting for Bigfoot. My boy,
I think-
my boy can eat it. Well,
does that mean he
I
comes
want
back
to be a
next
bigot. So
Well, I do want to be a bigot as well, but it's Women's History Month.
I don't care. That makes me hate it more.
What is your girlfriend gonna think? What is she
She'll be
gonna
like,
think?
yeah, that sounds about right.
What's your wife gonna think, Jason?
That this is ridiculous and she's not going to get involved.
His wife
Your
looks the
daughter,
other way
your
to his
children.
internet activities.
A lot of wives do, but that's not because they're like this.
They're just
This
like,
is more
please go in
embarrassing.
private browsing mode.
This is more
I can't believe
listen.
what you
I
do
don't want
to
this to go on another week, but I can't in good conscience vote for this thing.
Oh, you
Especially on the
can in
basis
good
of Women's History Month.
please.
Do we flip a
Behind the
coin?
boy.
Flip the coin.
Oh wait,
Yeah, sure.
I got a perfect coin. Can I please flip this
How do
coin?
we believe?
I found this.
How do we believe that what you're flipping lands correctly?
Yeah.
You're just a big liar.
But wait, let me make my point of why this coin would be perfect to flip. It's because it is a really old coin. It is a dry mark Deutsches Reich 1912.
Oh.
From Wilhelm II.
Oh. For a second, I was like, does it got the little mustaches man face on there? Or?
Oh yeah, it's Wilhelm II, Deutscher Kaiser König V Prussian.
You know, he had a withered arm. Just so you know,
so
his little wimpy
Heads
wither
would be
arm.
mustache man. The dry mark side would be tails. How's that?
But I
all
don't
right.
trust you.
Do I need to record this as I'm sitting here?
What, for evidence in court later?
Yeah, you're just gonna see a weird video of my carpet right now. I flip this thing. Okay, so which is which? Do we say heads is the my boy?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll say that. He has many
Big
heads.
head.
Heads is my boy.
Oh, does he lose?
Oh no.
My boy!
Did Bigfoot rip apart my boy limb by limb?
Yeah.
Yes! Justice! Truly there is a God.
The silver
need
sin
to
is
leave.
silver sin is finally destroyed.
Deutscher Kaiser König V of Prussian! Why did you abandon me?
This is wrong, even from my opinions. This looks very terrible.
Wow. Well,
I need to go.
It needed to die. I will agree with that. It looks like misogyny
can I get the moral
wins.
victory? Can I please have the moral victory, Women's History Month? I need something, please.
You wanted to flip a coin!
He did flip a coin! He did lose! I want the moral victory!
Of what? Yes, Jordan, you did create a horrible terror monster. You did it!
War, how dare you?
You created a freak, and it lost.
Men win again! Yay! Woo!
Yeah!
But we're giving
Yes,
the moral victory to Jordan, yes.
For all of my effort, my work.
How's it feel, see?
I failed all of college trying to do this.
The kaiju grades suffered, but it was worth it.
All because of a
This was your call. I was going to auto-generate it on Google Gemini.
I could have still lost. So
Probably still would have.
It was fate. That creature needs to die. Your boy will be buried in as deep as we can.
well, I hope
underneath
you're
the
happy
cement.
that a mother's burying her son this day.
Your first son.
Yeah, my firstborn child, my boy.
In the arms of the angels.
I can't believe this happened.
With me. Gotham City. Wow.
Gotham City!
So, Sasquatch defeats all of the combined forces of a horror creature that shall not be, and stands triumphant even in the bonus round. Harry and the Hendersons go on. He can't stay with the family because he's wrong, but he has to go back to the forest, but he still wins.
He does win.
He still wins. Well, it's been a lovely podcast. Silver's upset, as that counts as a success in any podcast. It counts as a podcast success in my mind. And I'm super excited. So let us say goodbye, everybody, as we call to close episode 59. Good Lord. 59.
Ooh.
Let's get out of here. I love you, everybody. Plutonically. Goodbye.
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DGPodcast or on Instagram at DistractedGamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.
Oh my god, it's so juicy!